Good morning, everyone. This is Fran Lewis. This is MJ Network. MJ in memory of my sister, Marcia Joyce. And Brian Silverman is here with his fantastic book, Calypso Blue II, in the Lynn Bigley Cleo, a hero in hometown flees the family and the city for what he hopes is a quieter, idyllic life in the tropics. You could only wish. When Lord Ram, a world-renowned calypso performer, dies, Glenn is called to a quiet, damning rumors about the man's death, but he also has to deal with his friend Mauricio, which I found very interesting because I really like the guy. What can
Yeah.
I say? So, why did you create the first scene, and how does it foster where the plot takes place?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you on that. What was the question?
Right.
How the first prologue scene, the preface? How did you create that one? I have it memorized.
Well, I mean, I had that was the basis of the springboard to the what happens a lot in the book. It connects a lot of the plots, both of the plots. There's two mysteries that are going on in the book, and what happens in 2001. When you read that later, you'll put it all together and how it related to the present day.
I actually like Lord Ram.
Well,
Yeah, I do. I like him. So explain the playlist and why the Fed and the bar. And I feel so bad for him because he gets roped into everything.
yes. Well, anyway, the playlist. There's a lot of music in this
Yeah, I
book,
know.
so I just thought it would be a nice way to break up instead of part one, part two, part three. I broke them up in terms of what Len was listening to in those sequences in the book. The first one is there's a fete at his bar, and it's to honor Lord Ram, who's a Calypsonian, and so the music is calypso music. And then the second one is jazz because his good friend Maurizio was a big jazz fanatic who was an influence on Len in terms of enjoying that music. And the last one was a reminiscence of island music created by someone from his past.
Well, I'm a music major, so I do classical music and whatever was on the latest radio station. But
Right.
classical music's my favorite. So tell about his bar and his background and my favorite character, Tubby. I love
Well,
Tubby.
when he came to St. Pierre, he was a bar owner. Len was a bar owner in New York City. And when he left New York, he settled in St. Pierre, and he got the idea to open the island's first sports bar. And he tried to do that, but he needed help from inside. And that's where Tubby came in. Tubby knew the ins and outs of the island, how to get things done. And he also was a good bartender and made a very good rum punch. And so they became partners in the bar, Tubby and Len.
The only kind of
Not to
punch I
mention,
like is the kind without liquor.
well, you can have a virgin rum punch.
I love that. That is really good, though.
Yeah,
Lots of sugar and calories, but it's definitely worth it. For
yeah,
real.
yeah.
And my other favorite character is Tito. And they're honoring Lord Ram. How come they make it? I mean, I feel bad that he's dead, but from what I gathered, I don't know if he's supposed to most savory character.
No, he wasn't. But on a small island, when somebody has world renown like he did, he was famous across the world. They celebrate him. He's a hero to the people of Saint Pierre, and that music is special to the people of the Caribbean and in Saint Pierre in particular. Um, so he's a legend on the island. But after he passes, there are rumors about him that he didn't die a natural death, that maybe his younger wife was involved. And that's where Len comes in uh, at the behest of the police superintendent, McWilliams, who doesn't really want to get involved in something that might cause civil unrest in the island and would rather Len handle it outside his bureaucracy. So that's why he investigates that.
I feel bad for him. It's dangerous. But
Well,
I tell you something, he's better than most police officers. And you know how many books I've read? I've just read one like that. I'm going like, okay, where's
a bad
Len?
police officer?
Yeah, all bad police officers paid
Yeah,
off to lie and say that the person didn't die from murder
right.
or something. It was an accident or something. I
Yeah.
just finished one.
Oh
I
boy.
finished a new one by David Rosenfeld, Dogged Pursuit. I read
Okay.
that this morning.
Nice.
It's
Well, there's a
interesting.
lot of bad cops make good characters sometimes.
Well, there were a couple that just got arrested up
Oh,
here. Oh, yeah.
okay.
So who is, I love this character, Horace Fancy, and why is he important? I like this guy.
Well, he's just, see, there's regulars that come to his bar, and
Yeah,
he's just one of the regulars and chimes in about his what he thinks happened to Lord Rand. So he's just, it's almost like a Greek chorus at that bar where everyone has their own opinions. The regulars, it's sort of like what in the old TV show Cheers, where they had their regulars that came to the bar. Um, in his bar, these are people from the island,
yeah, he was
regular,
worried. Yeah.
and they all exchange gossip and information.
Now I know the fete was important to honor Lord Ram. So how
Yes.
many? There were so many people there. How come so many people came?
Well, because like I said, the word
Yeah,
got out that he was gravely ill, and they wanted to praise him before he might pass and celebrate him. And on the island, that is how they did it with the fete. And it just materialized pretty much at Len and Tubby's bar, where word got out. That's where everyone was going to go to celebrate Lord Rand.
that's amazing. Now we get to know. Tell us more about McWilliams, and he seems to really feel maybe Len should get his PI license in the next book because basically I know he likes running the bar, but I think he could do both. Have a double
Well,
career.
I don't know about that. I think he would rather, he's reluctantly helps McWilliams, who's the police superintendent of the
Yeah.
island. He would rather just run the bar, but he also feels obligated to help people on the island in terms of, because he's not, he never feels really part of the community. And this is his way to find his way into the community. Um, but McWilliams and he, in the first book, Freedom Drop, had more of
Yeah.
a shaky situation. Working, he didn't. McWilliams wasn't happy with what Len was doing. In this one, he enlists Len to help him uh, uh, work on this about what happened to Lord Rand.
Yeah, well, without Len, he wouldn't have made anything. So tell us about Sassy.
Well,
Yeah, I
she
liked her too.
is also a Calypsonian, a female Calypsonian, much younger than Lord Ram, but they were a husband and wife. And at first, everyone points the finger at Sassy, who might have,
Yeah,
when a husband dies in dubious ways, the finger is often pointed
yeah.
to the wife or the spouse. And in this case, so people were gossiping that she might have done it. And though McWilliams makes it clear that it was an accident how he died. But those rumors persist, and that's why both Sassy and McWilliams would like Len to clear her name.
Well, you have to read the ending to know who did what. You're going to be like,
Right. We're
what?
not going to tell anyone here.
Nobody's allowed to know that.
Not
Now,
yet.
my other favorite character, sorry, I know he's bad, is Maurizio. So, what was his problem, and how does it affect the bar? Now, that was interesting. The
Well,
bad guy.
Maurizio was a friend of Len's when he first came to the island. And he's an Italian man who was sort of a drifter looking for purpose. And he, like Len, fell in love with St. Pierre, but he also fell in love with a woman on the island. Her name was Betta,
Uh-huh.
and they ended up working together making bread on the island, Italian bread. And though Maurizio has a strong pull from his family, and due to that, deserts Betta on the island, goes back to Italy, leaving her pregnant with their first child. And this is several years later. He's returning to the island to hopefully get back with Betta, but also he's in trouble with something he did in Italy in terms of he was trying to start a business there where he borrowed money from people and wasn't able to pay them back. So he's trying to hide out also on St. Pierre, and Len has to try to help him out of that situation and also protect Betta and her young son.
That's difficult. A lot of the books like that, the one I just read and a few others, where the big person that owns the company has money put in by somebody else and doesn't pay back and
Right,
winds up slightly dead. What could you
right.
do? So sad. So what does Let understand? What did his friends sign, and what are the bottles that have to do with it?
Well, that's what Maurizio was starting a
Yeah,
business of Italian vermouth, and
yeah.
the bottles are valuable because a set of them had original art by a very famous Italian artist
Mm.
on the label that were originals, and they were worth more than the actual liquor itself, worth a lot more. And they were to be auctioned off in Europe for a lot of money, and Maurizio stole them back and brought them to St. Pierre, and the people that wanted them, that fronted his money, come after him for those bottles and to get their money back.
That is scary. And the different kinds of bottles are worth a lot of money because of this artist.
Yes,
That made it even more. I wish I had pictures of that. That would have been so cool.
that would be cool. I was trying to find something like that for the cover, but it was pretty hard to do.
Well, you'd have to ask somebody that owns a bar. They have to lend you the pictures. What
Well,
can I
some of the,
say?
if you've noticed, some of the labels on whether it's wine or alcohol are pretty elaborate these days. So
Yeah, I
the
know.
artwork on them is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, they just opened up a new wine store across the street from here. A whole bunch
Okay.
of them.
Yeah.
The wine looks pretty, but not from, it really looks pretty. What can I say?
Right.
So, do they often auction off these bottles? What's the
No,
point of
no,
the auction?
this was just
It's
as part.
different.
They auctioned them off because the artist uh, passed away also. So Maurizio, in his deal, was giving it to them to auction, and the money was supposed to go to the artist, but the people that he owed money to, who were gangsters, were going to keep the bottles and the money, which is why Maurizio wanted to hide them from him.
That's scary. So Lynn takes the bottles, right? And he takes
Uh,
them and puts them in the bar, and they get trapped holding the bottles, and they're valuable. So how does that put him in danger? Because someone can try and steal them.
well, yeah, and they actually do. They break into his bar and steal those bottles. The gangsters that are after Maurizio. But I don't want to get too much detail. I don't want to give too
No,
much
we're not
away.
going to, because
Okay.
people. I have two copies of these. Two copies I got somehow,
Okay.
and actually, my UPS guy took one.
Good. Well, it's available now for pre-order. So
Yeah.
the release date is a month from now, or June 30th.
Yeah, well, I'm a popular child when it comes to giving away books. But my UPS guy takes most of them. My dermatologist wife doesn't need any more, but the lady down the hall does. So don't
Okay.
worry about it. It's going to go somewhere.
Yeah. Good.
So he gets trapped. So tell us more about Maurizio and his wife. I felt bad for him because he did something stupid. But in this particular case, the something stupid is dangerous.
Yes. And he's not thinking, and Len has to bail him out, even though they were friends. Len never forgave him for leaving his wife and their son to go back to Italy. So he still doesn't trust him, and neither does um, his wife to take him back because of what he did was pretty to desert his family. But again, on Len feels um, he did sort of the same thing, so he feels guilty about all that as well.
That's so sad,
Yeah.
scary. So tell us about her son, who I like.
Oh well, she has
I love
a
little
young
kids.
boy um, that was Maurizio's son, and Len, while Maurizio was away, sort of as a father to him to the son.
This is so sad. Now, how does okay? I'm reading this. I read this 3 times. How do you connect a phone to a Jeep sound system through Bluetooth?
You can
How
do
many
that
different
now.
places do you do that? I mean,
You
I
can
have
do
enough. Could
that.
I have enough turning the phone on and hoping it doesn't disappear, which is done for it too when it gets upset and
Yeah.
overworked.
Cars now have Bluetooth, and if you have a device, a phone that has your music on it, you can connect it and listen to your music through your phone on your car sound system.
Well, cars have it too, but since I'm not
Jeeps too.
allowed to get behind the wheel of a car, it doesn't really matter. No. You see, my dad made me get my license. I got it on the first shot because the guy thought I was adorable, even though I didn't know what I was doing. He actually had to stop the car in the middle of the road test to pray to God I didn't hit somebody, but I passed anyway. So it really didn't. But then I realized I shouldn't be driving for other reasons. It was safer.
Yeah.
So tell us about Len's family and children.
Well, they don't really come into play that much in this
Yeah.
book. His daughter visited him in the first one, Freedom Drop. In this one, he has some phone conversations with his ex-wife and his son, but they live in New York, and he misses them, but he deserted them to come to St. Pierre to start a new life. So there's that guilt, of course,
Why, that's so sad. Why did they live in New York? How come they didn't live with him? They were no on the
because he
whatever?
broke up with his wife. There, what happened in New York
Yeah.
uh, shattered his life. Um,
And
um,
my other
so,
favorite character is Rondo.
I'm sorry.
I like Rondo.
Oh, that he's one of the island people that
I
helped
like him.
Gubby to get out of situations, and he helped in this book too.
And there's Paolo also with his grandmother. He was very close to little boy, wasn't he?
Yes.
He wasn't one of those. Well, a lot of kids when their parents are having a problem, I know because I had to live with my grandparents. That was
Hmm.
fun, but then my grandmother protected me, so it didn't matter. It's hard sometimes. So, how did you intertwine both the death of Lord Ram and Maurizio? And how come you decided to do that to the other person?
Well, there's a little connection. There's one connection between both of those um, mysteries that were going on, the two conflicts in the book.
Uh-huh.
And it all sprung from that prologue we talked about earlier from 2001. There's a character in the book who Len discovers and helps him in in Maurizio's problem, but also is connected to the Lord Ram um, issue. So, uh, and he is related to the person involved in the prologue that was from many years ago. In fact, he was his son for the person that we meet in the prologue.
So where does he go besides the Caribbean to get information? Because he travels, and he
Uh,
leaves the bar alone with I guess with hubby and everybody else. And Tito's, he doesn't have to worry.
yeah, no. Well, he doesn't travel really. I mean, he
Yeah,
lives on St. Pierre now,
yeah.
but but he's from New York and he has a background there. So,
Well, being tough from New York does help him. Us New York Bronx people, you don't want to mess with the Bronx girl in me, I'll tell you that.
That's right. That's right. Can't mess with the Bronx. So
So tell us about, she's worried about his son Luke, and we meet Kathleen, his
yeah,
daughter,
that's
right?
his ex-wife.
And she stays, doesn't she? She told he wants to send her home
No, no,
because
that,
I
that
love
was that
her.
was the first book. His
Yeah,
daughter Casey wanted to stay and help him in
yeah.
Freedom Drop. She visits him, and uh, he gets involved in something that's dangerous to her, so he sends her back home. Um, so she's not really in the second book, Casey. And his
I,
ex-wife's name is Kathleen. Yes,
yeah. Oh, his sister's Kathleen. Yeah.
right.
So her sister's Kathleen. So then, how come they were able? He locks the bar, doesn't he, at night?
They do lock the bar, yes,
So how
but
come
that
they
doesn't
broke
mean
in?
somebody can't break in.
Yeah, that's up here. Forget it. They're doing it all the time.
Right. That's what it is. So, um, yeah, no, they lock the bar, even though it's a safe island for crime for the most part. People still have to lock their doors.
Well, they didn't get the bar. What happened when they broke in? So how does Lynn proceed in many different directions? And how did he got COVID, the poor thing? And I had it twice, so I know it's horrible.
Well, we never really mentioned COVID, though we know what it is. We've all went through
Like,
that, and
yeah,
that's part of
was
sort
it
of the time
COVID
period.
actually?
That's sort of the time period, and the symptoms that he had are similar to what we all experienced if we had COVID. But he gets it. It's just part of the story. He has to go to Italy to bring Maurizio back, and
Yeah.
all that travel or whatever it is, what he had to endure. He's not a young man, Lynn. So, he's not Tom Cruise that can get through the Mission Impossible without a scratch. You know, the things he does wears on him physically.
But
So
what would have happened if he didn't bring Maurizio back? If he just let him hang wherever he is and get away with
no,
it?
they would have figured something out to get him back to Italy. But let's not go too deep into that because I don't want to give anything away.
I felt bad for Maurizio though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
we
did
you know
too.
we have a lot of people. I mean, I read too many books, and I know people that you think are loyal to you, haha, not really.
Right.
So Tubby is like his right arm. Without him, I think Len would be gone and dead, and whatever the bar would be gone and dead too, because you could trust him. So why is he so loyal? What did Len do for Tubby?
Well, they're good friends, and Tubby, has a family, and he worked many jobs before he hooked on with Len in his bar. So now he has a permanent stake in the bar. So it's more, he helped. Len helped Tubby, and Tubby helped Len. So it was mutual in what they did. So they're friends, and they're also partners in the bar. Um, so they're loyal as a friend would be loyal to another friend. That's why, pretty much.
I happen to like Tubby. And who is John?
Well, he becomes a character that helps Len find um, these gangsters who stole those bottles. He's working with them. He's sort of a low grade bad guy on the island. He's
Yeah, I
got
know.
he's got into trouble here and there, but nothing. In fact, he was even in jail for a while, uh, but now he's out, and he's got troubles, but he's not without redemption. And part of the book is work that redemption. John, how he helps Len and Tubby, and also Len discovers there's a connection with him and Lord Ram as well.
Well, sometimes if you vote with them the right way, like I said, you know where you wind up in my book. Before I forget, this is the last stream, everybody, for May.
Oh,
You have the honor of being the last one.
wow! It is an honor.
Yup.
That's a
And
big
on the
one.
9th of June, we hope John Gilstrap will be there with his new book. And on the 11th, Dick Belsky, Body Chamber with Swipe. On the
Good.
23rd, the author of Tarot. And on the 4th, my reading professor and I are going to go at it with the next set of stills and phonics. That's what keeps
Wow.
me going.
I want
And
to see
on the
that.
12th, Ashley Fontaine.
So
So fun.
you have a lot of work coming up after you take a little break.
Well, let's put, I don't do anything in July because it's when my sister died. So I
Okay.
do the memorial stuff and I remind myself of her. So that's that, whatever, that's important, but I love doing this.
Yeah. It's an honor to be here, Fran.
And by the way, I got an email from YouTube. You are live on YouTube as we speak.
Oh, good.
They send it to me to let me know that I didn't screw up.
Good.
So what happens that Len is captured and how dare they take him?
Well, it's, again, I don't want to give away too much of what
No.
goes on, but it's all part of him trying to bail out Maurizio and the problem that he brought from Italy to Saint Pierre. He gets involved with these pretty dangerous gangsters
I know.
from Eastern Europe, and it's not good. But he's helped out. He finds a way out.
Now, who is Miss Alexis?
She is. Uh, and she worked for Sassy um, uh, and also helped take care of Lord Ram, who, when he passed, was in his mid 90s and needed constant care. So she was a witness to what happened to Lord Ram. So that's Len interviews her to find out what she observed when he died.
That's scary. So I divided this book into three parts, by the way.
Well,
The
there are
third
three
part,
parts.
yeah. How did you weave the parts together?
Well, I think they all there's a
That's hard.
well, it's like any other thing, a beginning, middle, and an end, and hopefully they all come together at the end. And I just hope I mean I had three parts, and there were a lot of characters and a couple of different conflicts, and I do hope it all worked at the end. I mean, that's all uh, as long as you read it and turned the pages, that's all I
Yeah.
hope for. It didn't bore you.
I just sat down and read it three times to make sure I got it straight. So
Okay,
there
well,
was a funeral, right?
yeah.
And
Well, when he dies, and
so many people came.
right,
But how they declared it, actually declared it, they do it up here too, only for presidents that die, or politicians that they think are worthy of it, or the Pope, who
right,
deserved his month of whatever.
right.
How come they declared it a day of mourning or day of celebration?
Well, because he was a hero on the island. He was one of the island's most famous people, Lord Ram. So his funeral was like a national day of mourning. So they proclaimed it, the island government proclaimed it as a day of mourning because he was so important to everyone there.
Well, tell us more about Lloyd Ram. Why would anybody want to kill him? Wasn't he sort of in charge of government, some part of it?
No, he was
He
not.
was something.
He was a calypsonian, but he
Yeah,
had a lot of influence and he had a
yeah,
lot of followers. If you're a calypso performer and you're famous, it's almost like you're a world famous basketball player, or you're a hero, you're a superstar. He was a superstar on the island for what he did, and so if you say things negative about that superstar, that can create a lot of controversy, and that's what there were whispers about his background that weren't so great, and um, the government on St. Pierre wanted to cover that up because they didn't want that image of him to be uh, tarnished.
now there's another character. I'm looking. I think I have the book memorized in parts over here. So who else was killed in this book besides It says in third
No,
chapter
no,
36. We don't
we
want to
can't
say
give
what it
anything
is.
away.
Yeah,
We don't know who
I,
was killed.
yeah, I know. I actually felt so bad after a while.
Well, we do know that
So,
Lord Ram died, and
yes.
that
So
we
what
do.
about Len? Where does he wind up at the end? What's going to be his story, the poor guy? And what's he going to get into next? And when are we
Well,
getting
yeah,
it?
I'm working on that now,
Oh,
and
good.
so there will be, hopefully, if I get through it and finish it, and I feel it's worthy of publication.
Oh, good.
Yes, so he has he'll continue running that bar, but something always comes up which requires his attention outside the bar, and that might draw him in uh, to a different place in the next book. So
Well,
you
I
have
know because somebody said to him, "Don't be so sure." I
to,
cracked up laughing too. I know
yeah,
I'm the one that if the family has a problem or they have a problem with school, tell her to call. She'll take care of it.
yeah,
And there are days you're just like, do it yourself. You're 30 years old. You can handle it. No, I
yeah,
can't.
that's
So
right.
what about his family and Betta? I love Betta.
Well, now Betta is trying to be. She's trying to reconcile Maurizio coming back after leaving her pregnant and deserting her with a newborn, but she accepts him in a way, but she's not happy, and she wants to. She's still a young woman, and wants to create her own path. At the end of the book, there are hints of her going out on her own instead of depending on men.
Now, the title of the book is Calypso Blue. The other one is Freedom Drop. How did you decide what to call them?
Well, as I let the sirens pass here, Calypso Blue, it's the main character's Calypsonians, so
Yeah,
that's a big part of the story. And the blue has to do with the color of the Caribbean water, which when this takes place, now this is, this fiction, uh, they call it Calypso Blue. It's the time of the season where the color changes and the
Blue
waters around.
Moon.
Freedom Drop was a place on the island, which I think we discussed last time, um, which was very famous on the island, a landmark on the island.
Well, I have to tell you, I read the last chapter. I'm not going to say why. And it sort of says whatever. It was interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so they left out one character. That's the dog.
Oh, the dog. Well, he has dogs,
Well,
Len.
you know what? I just finished his book, so we have Tara and Sonny, the dogs, and David Pup, but I love dogs.
Well, he had that's his. He lives by himself, but he has three
Yeah,
dogs, and
yeah.
in this book, one of the three is a puppy, and they're a big part of they're characters in all his books as well. The
Well,
dog.
besides Len, I hope you bring back some other people that I like, but we won't say who.
You'll have to find out, but I'm not gonna. Those
No, don't
characters
give
are
it
part of the
away.
book. I mean, they're part of the atmosphere of the book. The characters.
Well, we won't ask the title, but I'll find out somehow.
Well, I don't really have a title for the next one yet. I will though. I'll come up with something.
Oh, good. Are you going to do another tour with Gina for that one, the third one?
Well, it's a ways off, so I've got a ways to go, and it's a process. So I'm still slogging through the drafts now, and then I have to rewrite, and then when I feel it's good enough for other people to look at, I'll send it out to beta readers, and and we'll go from there. And hopefully, I can continue with my publisher. We'll see.
Well, my book came out on Saturday, Inverted Reality, and
Excellent.
unfortunately, the
Congratulations.
people that published it cost a lot of money, and they're not helping me promote it. They just put it on Amazon, yeah. So I've been doing it myself
We have to do
with
that.
some help with my students.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my
Well,
students are putting the book cover on the shelf out, and they said, just buy it or we're not going to let you come near. And they're reading it, so it makes me feel good to know that they even care. So where can everybody get all your books?
Well, Freedom Drop is available on all platforms in print, ebook, and
Uh,
audio. Uh,
yeah.
and Calypso Blue, which hasn't been released yet, but it will on June 30th, is available now for pre-order on all platforms, including Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Apple, or wherever you want to go, for ebook and print. So you can pre-order it if you want to get that right away after June 30th, once it's available.
When
Um,
is it coming out?
June 30th.
Oh, so maybe I should wait to post the review then.
Well, I don't think
It's up to
you
wait the
might
one
be
that
able
Gina
to.
wants.
You might. I don't know how they do it on these platforms.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
I do know that the reader reviews are very important to sell the books for you. For you as well as for me. It's like people going to a restaurant. They like to read those reviews, those 5 stars, and it helps
Yeah,
them
I
go.
know.
They see the 5 stars for the books. They buy the books.
Well, that's because I read the book. And
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot of authors' reviews, and all they'll say is the book is wonderful, buy it. They don't tell anything about the book, and I
No.
would say anybody like that has been paid to do that. Nobody really does it. This is inverted reality for those of you that want to be scared to death. I'm very proud of myself, but thank you so much. And I really hope I have a book blast coming out in July, Regina. She agreed to
Okay.
do that for me. Yeah, I don't. You know what? I don't ask for reviews. I don't know about you, but when I get reviews, some people don't understand horror and they get some kind of negativity. So I'm just gonna have a book blast and spotlights and showcase
Well,
it. What do you find?
I used to write reviews about restaurants and hotels
I do
for
that too.
for a book. No, I did it
Yeah,
professionally for a book.
yeah,
It was a guidebook. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't waste my time with negative reviews. I only put the reviews in
yeah.
if I liked the restaurant or the hotel, unless it was something that people should really needed to avoid. I wouldn't. That wasn't my job to write a negative review.
Yeah, if a book comes to me and the publisher sends it and I find that the book is not within my realm of taste, I won't review it.
Yeah, that's
I won't
just
do that because you know what? Somebody worked very hard to that book, and just because
exactly
I disagree doesn't mean.
right.
But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Fran.
Always a pleasure, and I hope we get to do this again
I hope
on
so
the end
too.
of stream so that they don't yell at me.